getting engaged early is important, because again, time is brain. And it's again, just to make sure you have the right support in place. I want to reiterate that conventional medicine isn't your only tool. It's a very important tool. And what you choose to do with your neurologist is a very complex decision. So we don't get in the middle of that. But what we are going to get in the middle of is making sure that you're using the tools that don't cost much, that work every time, and they are going to create that healing environment in your body so that your DMT drugs can work better. Or if you're not using DMT drugs, at least you have something in place to help your body thrive. And so a couple of things about just having the right support in place. As far as a neurologist, you'd want to make sure you have a neuroimmunologist who is specialized in MS. I would prefer that you're not seeing a generalist, because I have seen cases where somebody's been on maybe a low efficacy DMT and has progressed for 1 or 2 decades because they just thought that they were on the right medication. So, but I think if you see a specialist who sees MS day in and day out, you're going to get more specific care. So, and if you live somewhere where neuroimmunologists are not available, maybe you find somebody further away that you touch base with when needed, and then you have your own local neurologist for just the more day-to-day things. And also just making sure you have a primary care doctor. I can't tell you how many patients I see where I'm like, who's your primary? And they go, I don't have one. Your primary doctor is the person who's going to coordinate your care between neurology and physical therapy and ophthalmology and urology. Like, you need somebody to coordinate that care. That is not your job to do. And it's important, if you find somebody, whether it's your neurologist or a primary doctor, hopefully it's somebody that you click with. And this is a person that is going to listen to you and answer your questions, even if it means they tell you, come back for another appointment so I can answer your questions, because these doctors do have to work fast and they have a lot of check boxes they have to fill. Physical therapy is really important, and I think it's still underutilized. If you have physical deficits, like, make sure that you're using that service. It's oftentimes very well covered by insurance. And then the one that's more shaky as far as insurance coverage is mental health care, which unfortunately is really hard to come by, because let's face it, after the pandemic, our mental health providers are burned out. They have left the profession, and the number of patients with mental health issues has skyrocketed. So there's a huge mismatch. But whatever you can do to address your mental health early on in your diagnosis is really important. I do remember thinking to myself, I got this, I know how to do this. And I tried to do it by myself for a long time. And then my husband goes, hi, you need to go see somebody, because I'm tired of this circle that you're doing all the time. And I thought, oh, he's right. And it was within 5 sessions or even less with this person, my whole world got reframed in a way that helped me move faster through that time of just confusion where I didn't know what I was doing. And so, question the advice that you're getting. Do you trust the people that you're seeing? Do you need a second opinion? And I think there's also a balance between being cautious and getting the right team versus too many second opinions, third opinions, fourth opinions. There is a point where you can overdo it and become a professional patient. So, do your research before you go see people, and hopefully within a few different doctors, you can choose who works for you. And if your neurologist isn't on board with lifestyle and mind-body skills and working on that aspect of MS care, it's okay. If they're a great neurologist, fine, you stick with them, but then you go on your own and you find that information, because unfortunately, we still have a lot of resistance that lifestyle works. But I can tell you, both Katie and I know it from personal experience, and I've worked with hundreds, thousands of autoimmune patients, and Katie runs so many support groups. So we get to see people flourish as they engage and do more. How about you, Katie? Tell us about, you have a different perspective as a patient. Tell me about, getting that right team in place.
Yes, it doesn't just happen. It takes time, and it takes us being really honest with ourselves. Is this person a good match? Are we aligned? The path I want, is that something they support? There are neurologists out there who, if you decide not to take a DMT, will not take you as a patient. So, you know, you're going to have to kind of choose your path and then find the right care team. I did for a while have 2 neurologists, and at one point they had different opinions about how I should move forward. And I actually had them call each other and come to consensus. I don't know if they really appreciated that, but I certainly did, because then I felt like they were both on my team. I did end up a few years later just kind of transitioning to one, and that's been a really good choice for me. But I think so many of us shy away from asking for a second opinion. And if you feel in your gut that you're not seeing the right person, trust that. That's one of the most important things I think I've learned through this whole journey, is learning how to trust my intuition and that inner voice. Another thing I want to just briefly touch on is I had immediate needs when it came to my employment because of how MS hit me. And that doesn't happen to very many people. A lot of people continue to work normally for many, many years, even decades. But for me, it resulted in my disability retirement pretty soon. And so I do want to highlight, there's an episode of Misunderstood, episode 30, which really, it's an interview with an incredible attorney who about half of his clients are people with MS. He's helped all of us across the United States really navigate this whole process. And it's really smart, if you do have a serious issue like I did, to get that process started early, and also to just talk to someone. He's such an amazing human, and he'll just let you know, now's not the time to worry about this, but be thinking about these things. And he's just such a strong advocate for us. So if that pertains to you, I highly recommend listening to that episode. His information is shared there. Reach out. He is a gem of a human, and he will take good care of you. I also want to mention family support, because this is tough. Our families, they have the best intentions, and our friends, but MS is something that's really hard to understand unless you live with it yourself. When you say things like, I'm experiencing fatigue, people will say, I'm tired too. Or you'll get a lot of comments like, but you look great. And none of these things we know are helpful. They're trying their best. So there's also some episodes that are meant for Misunderstood. There are some episodes that are meant for your loved ones to listen. And that was my attempt to say the things that sometimes our loved ones might not listen or hear if we say them, but if someone else does, they might. So there are a lot of episodes around that to kind of help us get the support that we want and need. The other thing I think is just finding your people, finding other people who truly understand. What that means is connecting with other people with MS, because oftentimes, even now, I'll have a symptom and I can't find the words to describe it, but somehow when I get together with other people with MS, there's like this secret language, and we don't even have to really explain it much, and people understand, and it's really beautiful. So, we have a lot of networks that you can join to be in community with people. There's also mymsteam.org, which is like a Facebook for people with MS. You can find people near you, people taking the same DMT, suffering from the same symptoms, and it's all free. So there's so much out there. So anything that you can do to begin to understand your MS will help you build your support network.
Absolutely. And